The Scammell 100-tonner was one of the most remarkable heavy haulage vehicles ever built in the early 20th century, a machine that was so large, so powerful and so unconventional for its time that it remained unmatched by dedicated internal combustion road vehicles for more than 2 decades. It was conceived not in a boardroom as just another truck, but out of a very specific challenge: how to move enormous steam locomotives and other oversized industrial machinery from inland factories to the docks over long and difficult highways with steep gradients and sharp bends. This need was first articulated by the British heavy haulage company Marston Road Services of Liverpool, which approached Scammell Lorries Ltd in 1929 with the idea of a lorry capable of hauling 100 tons, 4 times the capacity of the largest Scammell machines of that era. Scammell's engineers, led by Percy G. Hugh and Oliver D. North, accepted the challenge, and what emerged was not just a bigger truck, but a fundamentally different mechanical creation. In less than 8 months from the initial inquiry, the first Scammell 100-tonner motive unit was delivered to Marston Road Services in early 1930. A second was supplied shortly afterwards to another British haulier, H. E. Coley Ltd. The speed of development was astonishing. At the time, Scammell's biggest road vehicle was a 25-ton machinery carrier introduced just 3 years earlier, making the leap to 100-ton capacity a spectacular engineering accomplishment. The motive unit, the part of the vehicle that contained the engine, cab, transmission, and primary drive, was built on an enormous frame of heavy riveted steel plates, forming a box-section chassis strong enough to withstand the stresses of pulling and braking 4 times the weight of previous machines. At its heart was a huge 4-cylinder petrol engine with a displacement of 7,094 cubic centimeters, a unit common in the Scammell range, but specially tuned for the 100-tonner to increase its output from around 80 brake horsepower to about 86 brake horsepower. For a machine designed to pull extremely heavy loads, torque was the more important metric, and this engine delivered a prodigious amount of it even at low revolutions. Fuel consumption was understandably high. The original petrol engine managed at about 3/4 of a mile per gallon, necessitating the fitting of 3 separate fuel tanks with a combined capacity of approximately 103 gallons. By the early 1930s, it became clear that the original large petrol engines, while powerful, were fundamentally inefficient for sustained ultra-heavy haulage, especially given the extreme fuel consumption and limited range of the Scammell 100-tonner. As a result, in 1932, at least one of the motive units was re-engined with a 6-cylinder Gardner 6LW diesel engine, producing 102 horsepower, a move that dramatically improved fuel economy, low-speed torque delivery, and overall operational reliability. This conversion proved so successful that it effectively marked the beginning of a long-term engineering partnership between Scammell and Gardner, with Gardner diesel engines going on to become a defining feature of Scammell heavy vehicles for decades. The adoption of the 6LW transformed the 100-tonner from a spectacular but thirsty machine into a more practical long-distance heavy hauler, reinforcing its legendary status in British road transport history. In the early 1930s, few engineers could have imagined creating a vehicle this size that would actually function reliably on the public road network. But the 100-tonner's designers carefully thought through every element of the drivetrain. The motive unit used Scammell's standard 4-speed gearbox from their articulated 8-wheeler range, and from the gearbox output shaft, power was transmitted via a telescopic drive shaft to a central primary differential. This differential itself contained spur gears that effectively doubled the number of available gear ratios to 8, allowing the driver to select the appropriate pulling power for different gradients and loads. From the primary differential, final drive to the 4 rear wheels was achieved by hefty 2.5-inch pitch roller chains, 2 for each drive axle, tensioned and adjusted by massive screwed radius rods. Each of these driven wheels carried a proportion of the gross 100-ton payload, and the axles were located by a robust cross-tube and trailing arm arrangement that permitted a degree of pivoting on ball joints, helping all four wheels stay in contact with the road over uneven surfaces. The track of the drive axles was such that differentials were also included to compensate for left-right wheel speed on corners. Because of the vehicle's size, the cab was simple and practical, little more than a large, square wooden structure mounted on the extreme front of the motive unit. Early examples had upright windscreens, though at least one was later modified with a sloping screen to improve forward visibility. Steering was accomplished via a large screw and nut mechanism, requiring 7 complete turns of the welded steering wheel from lock to lock, and considerable physical effort from the driver at low speeds. With no power assistance and a front axle load rating of around 8 tons, maneuvering a 100-tonner was an exercise in precision and muscle. The motive unit was only part of the story, because a 100-tonner was never expected to haul itself alone. It needed a truly massive load carrier, or trailer, to carry the heavy cargo. Scammell referred to these as carriers, a term used to differentiate their semi-trailers from traditional drawbar trailers common at the time. 2 sizes were built, one for 65-ton loads and a larger version for 100-ton loads. Both types shared the same fundamental components, with the larger capacity achieved simply by adding a second pair of axles. The carrier bed consisted of 2 enormous box girder side members connected by a huge cross tube, nearly 3 feet in diameter, giving immense stiffness and strength. Attachment to the motive unit was via a 6-inch ball joint, allowing articulation between the tractor and the loaded carrier. Steering the carrier itself was a unique problem, and early vehicles had a tiny open-sided steersman's platform at the rear corner, allowing a crew member to operate a large vertical wheel that controlled the carrier's guidance. This was later replaced by a full-width enclosed cabin with wraparound windows, giving better protection and visibility. Clear communication between the driver up front and the steersman 90 feet behind was essential. Scammell solved this with an Admiralty-type telephonic system, and when the carrier cabin was removed for oversized loads, whistles provided the only means of signaling. Hydraulic rams at the carrier's swan neck allowed the team to raise and lower the carrier bed by up to 15 inches, increasing ground clearance when negotiating uneven roads or lowering it to fit under bridges. Despite their incredible capabilities, only 2 full-sized 100-tonners were ever built, and by the early 1950s, they were finally retired after more than 20 years of demanding service. One of them, KD 9168, eventually passed into preservation at the British Commercial Vehicle Museum in Leyland, Lancashire, a fitting tribute to machines that pushed the boundaries of what road haulage could achieve in the first half of the 20th century. If you enjoy deep dives into rare and remarkable vehicles like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our next exploration into automotive history.